All right, in this video, we're going to be talking about why being a good closer does not instantly mean that you're going to be a good manager. This is a tale as old as time. I've seen it time and time and time again when agencies, businesses hire good closers, place them as a manager, and expect them to do well. But the reality of being a good player doesn't mean that you're going to be a good manager. And likewise, being a bad player doesn't mean that you're going to be a bad manager. So let's talk about why that is, right? And we can actually see this throughout all kinds of sport and all kinds of competitive fields, right? So for example, with football, you have guys who are great managers like Pep Guardiola, but they also happen to be phenomenal players too, right? But then at the exact same time, we have guys like Jose, who great manager, right? Favorite manager of all time as a Chelsea fan, but he's a horrible player. You wouldn't want him playing in your team, right? Whereas Pep, you will both want him managing and you'd also want him playing, right? The reason that these guys are able to do both or one individual thing is because they have a skill set, right? So Pep has both the skill set of a player and a manager, whereas Jose has the skill set of a manager but lacks that skill set when it comes to actually playing football. It's the exact same with closing. So what we tend to see is people who have all of these skills but do not have any of these, right? So what are the skills needed to be a great closer? In my opinion, the only skills that you need are going to be communication. Your job is to communicate. Your job is to understand what communication actually means. When somebody says something to you, what do they actually mean by that? And also about the way you communicate, your tonality, your body language, the way you explain things, the way you elaborate on things, all come into it. Your ability to build rapport. As much as people say it's not needed, it definitely is. People buy from people that they trust and they kind of like. They don't need to be your best mate, but they need to somewhat like you and respect you. So people who can't build rapport are always going to struggle as great closers. Questioning, having the ability to question people, having the ability to ask effective questions and efficient questions to get to the answer as quickly as humanly possible. Persuasion, it's the most needed skill in sales. You need to be able to persuade people that what they need is what you're offering. Objection handling, you need to be able to handle objections. Otherwise, you will never be a great player. It's like being able to score but not being able to pass. If you can't do one, the whole thing falls apart. Confidence. The greatest closers I know are the cockiest people I've ever met. They have the biggest ego. The reason for that is because they know that every single one of these skills is dialed in. It's at a high level and they're going to perform whatever offer they're on and whatever situation they're put into. So they're going to have a high level of confidence. The other thing that you must have is resilience. Sales is something that will beat you down constantly. You'll never win and it is extremely frustrating. And if you aren't resilient, you will crumble. If you are resilient, that's how the cream rises to the top and we're able to have these great closers who make 20, 30, 40, 50K a month. Whereas the guys who make 10, 20K 1 month and then fall off completely. So resilience is a key. Now, these are all the skills needed to be a great closer. To be a great manager, you don't need as many skills, but you need to have higher level skills. So you need to be able to lead people. Leading people is not easy. There's times where when you're leading people, everything's in the pits, everything's going wrong, but you need to give confidence to your team that everything's going to be okay, even though you might not believe that yourself. You also must be able to coach. This is one of the only things that ties into being a great closer, is you must be able to elaborate, explain, break something down for somebody and teach it to them. So you must have leadership, which is crucial to any successful team, and be able to coach. The other thing you must be able to do is delegation. This is one of the hardest skills and one of the least likely skills to have if you are a great closer. Because when you're a great closer, what you get used to is being self-reliant, is being able to trust yourself to do everything that is needed to make something happen. So when you move up to being a manager, it becomes very difficult to now delegate tasks to other people because you've become self-sufficient. You've become reliant on yourself. So it's one of the most important skills you must learn when you first start managing is delegation. The other thing you must start thinking about is stop thinking selfishly and start thinking selflessly. So you must start thinking about the business as a system rather than as a way for you to make money like we do when we're closing. So you must build out systems, think of systems to keep people on KPI, keep consistent, and to keep everybody winning, rather than the old process when you're just a closer where all that matters is that you win. Decision making. You must be able to make decisions. It's not something that's that important in closing because we don't need to make any decisions. We're making other people make the decisions. But in managing, you need to make the decisions. Do we cut that rep? Do we hire that rep? Do we replace that rep? Do we go down a rep? Do we expand the team? Do we disband the team? Do we leave this offer? What do we do, right? And how do we do it? So you're going to be making crucial, critical decisions, something that you've probably never done before in closing. And now you need to do it for not just yourself, but the whole team. The other thing that you must learn is conflict resolution. If you have a big team, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be conflict with you. You're going to say things that people don't like. You're going to help people and they're not going to take it the right way. You're going to give them advice. They're not going to take it well. You're going to have to learn to deal with conflict if you ever want to become a successful manager, if you ever want to run your own business, if you ever want to get to where you need to be, you need to be able to make decisions and also resolve conflict. Again, performance and accountability. You need to learn how to handle people's accountability and how to deal with that effectively. Performance is one of the most interesting things because when we train people, people look at it very fundamentally. They say either smart or dumb, right? So people are either smart or dumb if they learn. But the reality is, one guy who learns by books, for example, and one guy who doesn't read by books, right? You could label this guy as dumb because he doesn't read books and he doesn't learn from books. But if you sent him videos, he'd maybe be smarter than this guy, right? And if you gave this guy videos, he'd be dumber than this guy. So never ever label your reps as one learning better than the other. You should actually take self-accountability for your reps learning and say, okay, maybe it's not the way he learns, maybe it's the way I teach. And since doing that, that has been the single defining reason for my lack of churn with reps and also my extremely high rate of learning within my reps is because I try and tailor my teaching and the way that I educate them based on the person I'm teaching, not the way that I want to teach, because the way I want to teach might not be the best way they learn. It's the reason that a lot of people in the online space did shit in school, but they're actually incredibly intelligent. It's because they were taught the wrong way that wasn't effective for them. So you need to figure out the teaching method that works for the person that you're teaching and use that specific method to teach them, rather than just trying to teach every single rep the exact same. You also must be able to look at the bigger picture. Again, you need to have a vision. You need to be able to explain that vision. You need to get people to buy into that vision. You also need to be able to build a culture. You need to be the guy who, when things get tough, people turn to. The hero, right? That's what you want to become. Is the guy who, when times get tough, people look at you and say, it's okay, Jordan will sort it. It's okay, he'll sort it. And that's what you need to be able to build, is a culture of people who will die for the offer and make shit happen when it is needed. But you also need to build a culture of friendship. You need to build a brotherhood almost. You need to make this team so indestructible that nobody wants to leave because they all want to work together forever and grow this as big as possible. So you really need to focus on culture. And obviously, if you look here, right, a lot of the skills needed to be a great closer don't even come into this. And that is one of the defining reasons why people go into closing, then think, okay, well, I'll go be a sales manager. Go be a sales manager. No one likes them and they don't do very well. It's because of this lack of having these skills that you need to be a good manager that you don't have as a closer, or you don't learn or you don't improve on as a closer. There are a few that are needed for both. Obviously, emotional intelligence and active listening, clear communication, adaptability, and accountability. There are a mix of both, don't get me wrong, right? But these alone do not make you a good manager. So when you're looking to become a sales manager for the first time and you want to transition, you need to start learning skills outside of sales. Just because you're good at sales does not mean you're going to be a good manager. So when you're looking to become that next version of yourself and become a sales manager, you need to actively start learning the skills of management, coaching, and building a culture.